These conspiracy theories are going viral on TikTok right now. So we, of course, have all been hearing about the viral conspiracy theory about Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber and Reign Disick. I talked about this a few videos back, and now people are connecting it to Jeffrey Epstein, and I didn't think that was possible, but it is. And honestly, I saw this guy's TikTok who put it in like a perfect nutshell, because I feel like it's a crazy conspiracy theory, but also like there is some weird stuff here, okay? I won't lie. But basically, if you don't know, the overall theory is that Reign Disick is actually the child of Selena and Justin Bieber, and that Selena's a clone now and is Gina Davis and like that whole thing. It goes a little tinfoil hat, okay? But there's a very scary and interesting Epstein connection that makes me kind of wonder if this could be possible.
I posted a joke about a conspiracy theory that now 2.5 million people have seen, and I wanted to find out more to understand why everybody reacted the way they did. So I have spent the weekend researching Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez. Not a sentence I ever expected to say. Here's what I found. Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber dated from 2010 on and off until 2018. Bieber would describe Gomez as the love of his life, so much so that he got a tattoo of her as an angel in 2013 that was allegedly inspired by one of her photo shoots. Kids, I cannot recommend enough, do not get a tattoo of a relationship that you're in. While at the time this didn't seem like a big deal, this would be pointed to much later as foreshadowing because of Gomez being portrayed as an angel. During their on-again, off-again relationship, Bieber would actually be allegedly tied to Kourtney Kardashian. Those rumors would circulate in 2015, but in 2014, Kardashian gave birth to her son, Reign Disick. Unlike her first son, she did not film and make publicly accessible the birth of this child, which spurred on a lot of rumors. One of the rumors is that Bieber and Kardashian actually had the child together, not Scott Disick. A lot of people point to pictures of Bieber and Reign being very similar to saying that Bieber is the father of the child. The other theory is Reign is actually the child of Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber, and that they gave up the child to the Kardashians to save them from a PDF ring. Now, there's no evidence, hospital records, anything to corroborate this, so I am not entirely sure, but there have never been any issues with who the father of a child is in the Kardashian family, so I'm sure it's fine. Things would get rough for Gomez in 2017, as on June 19th, she would have kidney replacement surgery due to lupus. The donor was her best friend, Francia Reza. Gomez was so thankful for this potentially life-saving surgery that allegedly the two never speak, and Reza wasn't even invited to Gomez's wedding to Benny Blanco. The theory is that Reza would soon see a change in Gomez that would cause the distance. The next month, in July of 2017, there may have been an email from that Jeffrey saying that he has decided on Selena Gomez. If this is real, because this is an alleged screenshot of an email, if real, there's no way that spelling wasn't deliberate. I can't spell my favorite word without it auto-correcting to duck, so there's no way that spell check would allow this to get through.
Real quick, the email is real. It's actually in the Epstein files. We're going to talk about it. And also, to be fair, as much as I'm like, yeah, I agree, it's a crazy typo, there are typos all over frickin' Jeffrey Epstein's email. And it makes me wonder, are they actually maybe intentional in some way? That's kind of an interesting theory in itself.
If true, that would help explain why this isn't the Selena that Justin fell in love with, or that Reza became best friends with. At this time, Gomez wasn't out in public despite just releasing new music, and in September she would announce that she had the surgery. Also in September, a young woman named Kanika Jenkins would be found unalived in a hotel freezer with alcohol and medication she didn't need in her system. The theory is that this woman was unalived because the new Selena needed organs. There are a couple of theories about the new Selena. One is that actress Gina Davis has assumed the body or that of a clone of Gomez due to facial features and mannerism similarities. Another theory is that a demon has assumed the body or the clone of Gomez because demons. While there is a clear difference in the appearance of Gomez between 2017 and now, she would explain it due to lupus medication and the fact that she has had Botox. There are some folks that will also point to her height because Bieber and Blanco are both listed as 5'9", but Bieber appears taller than Gomez, and Gomez appears taller than Benny Blanco. While all this is going on, Bieber would end up marrying Hailey Baldwin. Normal love story, right? Of course not. Bieber would meet Baldwin when he was 15 and she was 13. From there, Baldwin would coincidentally end up at a whole bunch of concerts, events, and even some dates that Bieber was on. The story goes, Baldwin's father, Stephen, actually purchased Bieber from Diddy for his daughter because she was such a huge fan. People are saying that Hailey is Justin's owner or handler, which is why he appears unhappy in videos with her, but it could just be that they're celebrities always in pictures and he won't always seem happy, and I'm sure that no married man has ever appeared unhappy with his wife. A lot of people are also pointing to art imitating life because in the reboot of Wizards of Waverly Place, Gomez's character sacrifices herself for her daughter, and in American Horror Story Delicate, Kim Kardashian plays an evil character who uses human blood and dark magic to secure success for her client. A lot of people will point to Justin's song Ghost, where he sings the lyrics, "I know you crossed a bridge that I can't follow, and if I can't be close to you, I'll settle for the ghost of you," along with his extremely emotional performance of the song at the VMAs as a sign that he knows the real Gomez is gone. Could also just be that he's really sad they broke up and is using metaphor. Is Justin Bieber just a child star who's been through a lot, got a tattoo of his ex, sang about her, and isn't always happy on camera? Or did he potentially father a child that was stolen from him, get sold to his now handler, and realize that his true love was taken prematurely from the world? Are the Kardashians in possession of a stolen child, or are they just famous for being famous and always surrounded by controversy? Is Selena Gomez truly gone after losing her child and her life that is now run by either Gina Davis or a demon? Or is she just somebody that's been through an extreme medical condition, taken a lot of medication, had Botox, and aged more extremely than a lot of celebrities? You be the judge.
So I like the way this TikToker frames the entire conspiracy theory because, to be fair, there have been so many conspiracy theories about Selena Gomez over the years. Like, it's not just here, and it honestly goes so much deeper than just Justin Bieber. Like, the entire narrative that she harvested Kanika Jenkins' organs is so dark and scary and crazy and just, like, insane to research. Like, it's nuts. And we can go into that in a different video if you guys want, because it is very interesting and very creepy. But I think what I find to be so interesting about this is definitely like the whole concept of the song Ghost and like the angel tattoo as well. Because here's the thing, I've had the conspiracy theory for a while that Ghost is about Selena Gomez, just like bar none. Whether or not she's a clone or has died, it's just about their relationship. But what's interesting is that Justin Bieber still to this day claims the Ghost is about his dead grandfather, which is so bizarre considering he says your memory is ecstasy. About his grandpa. Like, that's weird. I just don't think that's true. Also, I mean, not to say I definitely think Justin Bieber is Reign Disick's father, but I could totally see that. And I do think it's weird though, because even if he was the father, it doesn't make sense as to why that would be the birth that Kourtney Kardashian was like, oh, I'm not, have this birth be recorded on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Because obviously, even though Reign Disick looks like Justin Bieber, he still looks like he could be Scott Disick's kid. Like, it's not like we would know that right off the bat when he was born. So her not showing her birth with Reign is kind of weird. Like, I mean, Kourtney, I feel like did take a step back from the show at a point, but I just feel like altogether, the conspiracy theories keep adding up. I do not think that Selena Gomez is Gina Davis. I really honestly am a little confused where that one even comes from. It kind of feels like Avril Lavigne is a clone Melissa vibe. Like, I just feel like it literally came out of nowhere. Do I think that she could have been replaced with someone? Yeah. I do. Or I think she could have gotten really bad plastic surgery, but nothing explains the height difference. And that's all I'm gonna say, because when I talked about this, you guys commented so much talking about specifically Selena in heels next to Justin Bieber and how she's still shorter than him, but in flats, she like is basically the same height, if not towering over Benny Blanco. I don't think he's lying about his height because it doesn't check out to other pictures of him with other celebrities, including Justin Bieber. He looks like he is the same height and it just doesn't fucking make sense. I don't like it, because obviously in your 30s, you're not just gonna get like 5 inches taller. So yeah, I think it's weird as hell. Jeffrey Epstein, the email, I find to be very interesting as well. So he basically was sending an email to someone named Lana and he said, sorry, you would have had had fun. He has decided on Selena Gomez, and that was on July 21st of 2017. And like the video said, the kidney transplant was in June. So it is weird that he said decided about Selena Gomez. And also her kidney transplant was very difficult for her at first. Like her body rejected the kidney, which obviously can happen, but it was very scary, like life-threatening surgery. So it is weird that he said that. Like, I don't know why he would say that. I don't know who's he has decided. Is someone messaging from Jeffrey Epstein's email saying that Jeffrey Epstein has decided on Selena Gomez, and decided on her for what is the question, because like she's not in the files in literally like any other capacity besides the fact that he would constantly get like emails from like news articles. So it'd be like Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez break up, like stuff like that. But that's like within every celebrity pretty much. I want to hear what you guys think about this theory, because for some reason this actually makes me believe it just a little bit more. I don't even know what I believe here though, because again, I don't really think her being Gina Davis makes a lot of sense. And the concept of her and Justin like sacrificing herself and her firstborn child, which is allegedly Reign Disick, to protect him from the Hollywood elite and Jeffrey Epstein, like the SA rings, all of that. And I do think that that kind of makes sense, but why would you go with Kourtney Kardashian as the mom then? Like that's the part that is still confusing to me, because like she's very much in Hollywood. If this theory were true, I feel like they would give the baby to somebody who is completely outside of the Hollywood scenes, because then the kid would be the most protected they could be. But then again, I guess they know more than we do, and I don't know. I don't like it. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, because I feel like every day I check TikTok and this theory keeps adding different layers to it, and I'm here for it, honestly. All right, the next theory, I cannot even believe this was a thing in the files for so many damn reasons, but there is a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and Natalie Holloway's mother, Beth Holloway. And we're gonna dive into it because it is fucking weird and very disturbing on everybody's part here. So Jeffrey Epstein on February 1st of 2010 was invited by Robert Strang to an investigative management group international travel security cocktail reception featuring Beth Holloway, the mother of Natalie Holloway, and Maureen Conk, a child safety advocate and architect of Megan's Law, because her daughter Megan was brutally SA'd and murdered. So why the hell is a convicted child SA'er invited to an event like this? Like, hello? What the fuck? This is after. After 2008, after he was fucking convicted and pled guilty to SAing children. So could you tell me why the fuck he would be invited to something like this? And Jeffrey Epstein responded being like, oh yeah, give me your phone number to call you. So I assume he went to this event, which is bananas when you think about it. I can't. It's so crazy to me. And I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about this a lot because it was very brief, but Beth Holloway, Natalie Holloway's mother, dated John Benet Ramsey's father in 2007. So that again is just a weird connection. All of it just feels connected in such a weird way. You know, now this is Beth Holloway literally being connected to an event that Jeffrey Epstein was invited to and probably also at. And she obviously dated John Benet Ramsey's father. That's fucking weird considering all of the questions we have about John Benet Ramsey and Jeffrey Epstein and that picture of Ghislaine Maxwell. I have never been so sure in my life that that is Ghislaine Maxwell in the picture with John Benet Ramsey. I don't, like, everyone can fight me on that, although I think a lot of people agree with me. That's just her. I don't care. So what the hell is the coincidence? So honestly, is it just a hell of a coincidence that he ended up being at this event that Beth Holloway was speaking at? I don't know. And like, is it a coincidence that she happened to date John Ramsey? Again, weird, but I don't know. But what I do know is that a convicted child predator should not have been at like a travel security safety event about keeping children safe while they travel. I just feel like that should be what? Like, what the fuck was going on here? And I can't. But I do think it's weird. I do think that a lot of people think this picture of Jeffrey Epstein with a little blonde girl on his shoulders is John Benet Ramsey as well. I don't know. I feel like I've seen different versions of the picture. However, the picture of Ghislaine Maxwell and John Benet Ramsey, I guess I'm not gonna say it was 100% Ghislaine Maxwell, allegedly, but the picture is not AI. It has now been proven that that picture is 100% real. We just don't know who it is that's in the photo. I personally just believe it's Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm sorry. It's weird how all of these things fucking connect to each other. I don't like that. Speaking of Ghislaine Maxwell, let's talk about the Quebec video that now has proven to be fake. Okay, so we can see that like this video glitches a lot. The original poster said that it was a face swap video, which I still have issues with here because I don't understand why he won't release the original footage. I've said it before, but I just don't think that there's that much of a reason to like protect this lady who didn't do anything wrong, allegedly, just like on the street. That's not Ghislaine Maxwell, that the person just decided to put a face swap over her. I don't see the harm in releasing that footage. I mean, I guess she would probably get like people who knew her, but I don't know, she didn't do anything. She's literally just there at a friggin' like store in Quebec. Why not release the footage? It's just crazy that someone can like make something up. I know it's like obvious, and especially in this day and age with AI, it's just everything is getting so stressful because it's annoying to not know if something is real or not. And I genuinely think this has been the plan for a very long time because they don't want us to know the difference between if it's real or fake. They don't want you to know that because it gives them leverage, and that's just the truth, and it sucks and it's scary and I don't like it. All right, so it is currently February 27th and we still have no update on Nancy Guthrie and where she is, but this TikTok really pointed out how the whole thing could really have been some sort of an inside job or setup, which I agree with 100%. I think a lot of this is very, very strange.
Nancy Guthrie heads, holy shit, I think my friend just figured out the Nest Cam video. She sent this to me. Her name's Dooley. I'm going to link her here because she deserves all the credit for this. But I haven't seen anyone talk about this. This is like groundbreaking.
I want you to pay attention from, like, by the way he walks up, which is clearly not straight up the path. And I've said before that I think he's coming from the side of the house. And then I want you to pay attention to where he goes and what he does when he first walks up to the door. He's not walking up to the, like, doorknob. He's not walking up to the camera. He's walking up and he's looking directly at something over there. And if you look at Nancy's front door, there are those long window panes. And we know that this doorknob that we're seeing is from the, you know, like steel door, not the actual front door. I think somebody is either standing in the window there or has the door open and is drawing his attention to the camera, because that is not where he is first going. That is something that he becomes aware of without ever having directly looked at it at first. I think somebody is standing there and they're telling him or pointing to the camera. And then that's why he kind of starts to like fumble and goes and like picks up like the leaves. That has never made any sense to me. And when he picks up the leaves, he makes a look towards the road. He clearly is looking at something towards the road right there. And then I want you to pay really close attention. I don't think I've seen anybody point this out yet, but right there, that's not leaves. That is not a light source from him, because we're looking at what would be his left hand, so that's not his right arm. That is an additional light source. I think this is right before or like while they're taking Nancy out of the house. They had already been in the house at this point and they're about to leave with Nancy. And I think that guy, that additional light source you see is probably, I mean, I don't know if it would be a phone, but it certainly looks like a phone. Like it's that shape and it's light like that. And they're looking at the camera. He's probably sticking his arm out in between the steel rods to get an idea of how that camera is hung up on the door there. And they're there for a minute, and that's where the blood is collecting, because they're standing there with Nancy after they've already done what they did inside. I think we're looking at least a 3-person job. You have the one guy standing inside with Nancy at the front door. You have the other guy who's gone around the side of the house to come and help get Nancy out of the house and has been gestured to look at the camera and figure that situation out. And you see him looking towards the road to make sure that their getaway car is like in position and ready to go. I don't know if that car was there the entire time or if they like walkie-talkied it in to show up. But I think we're looking at least 3 people involved in this.
Is that not it? Like the window panes, I also have always felt at least 2 people were involved in this, and I've been theorizing that they might have gotten in through the garage because those codes are easy to hack. They were waiting for her when she got home.
So yeah, I think that puts a really interesting new perspective on the case. I don't think that this was like a lone, crazy guy that just did this. And it makes me, I don't want to say, I guess it doesn't make it any better, I guess, if there was 3 people kidnapping her, but for some reason I just want to believe that she's alive. And maybe I'm just naive. I know obviously like what the statistics say after a certain amount of hours that go by when a person's missing, but I do think that this could have just all been a really intricate setup and a way smarter than like how the police are kind of framing it and going about it, which obviously there's just a lot of questions here. Like, why aren't they able to pick up the signals on the pacemaker? I feel like they're also releasing a lot of details about the case that maybe we shouldn't know, if that makes sense. The fact that they were even looking for the pacemaker signals, like, I don't think that should have been released to the public, because then the kidnapper would be aware of that. Usually they try to shield any like that kind of information from getting out, but I don't know. I seriously think for sure that that girl's theory like makes perfect sense. I see the light exactly what she's talking about. I agree. I think they went in the garage and that was after Nancy had been, like, they had her with them right as he was like walking up to the camera and putting those leaves over it. I don't know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this because I feel like it was a very interesting perspective. All right. Bill and Hillary Clinton. Okay. They have testified under oath about the Epstein files. This is crazy. I feel like we actually found out a lot more information than I was expecting to, but it happens only if you like read between the lines of things, which sounds very tinfoil hat, but it's not, I promise. It's very simple. But Bill and Hillary Clinton both testified under oath that they had no idea what Jeffrey Epstein was doing and they didn't know he was like a bad guy, whatever. If you want to believe them or not, that is up to your discretion. But what I will say is I think it is important that the Clintons were trying to have this deposition be publicly recorded and viewed by anyone who wanted to. I think that that's important because it is kind of crazy that they were refusing to do that, and the DOJ has just been so ridiculous throughout this entire Epstein files, all of it. They've just been insane, and I just think it's a really big fumble to have not had this on recording, or at least public recording, which I'll explain in a second. But basically, I mean, obviously also, to be fair, Bill Clinton was literally impeached for lying under oath, so I don't know whether or not like you want to be like just automatically believe him. I kind of think they're all involved in this, but I do think, again, it is important that they were like, let's have it be public, because there's a lot of issues that have already started happening, and this literally was today while I'm recording this. So something that Bill Clinton allegedly said in his testimony, again, we can't know for sure, but he allegedly said this, is that he was told by Donald Trump that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump stopped being friends over a real estate property, which is a story we've heard before, but it just corroborates the fact that the president has made up so many different fucking stories as to why he's not friends with Jeffrey Epstein anymore. Over and over again, this man has lied and continuously lies and changes his story every 5 minutes, which obviously is suspicious. For the longest time, and any argument I hear from the Republicans is that Donald Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago in 2004 or 2007. The dates also change because he was being creepy towards a club member's daughter, underage daughter. He was being creepy towards. Girl, have you ever heard Donald Trump talk about women, including young women, by the way, teenagers, his little pageants, all that shit? Do you really think he's gonna like stop being friends with someone for that reason? Sorry, but no. Obviously not. And of course, we have also heard this theory about the Palm Beach real estate, that apparently they both wanted this real estate waterfront property, and I guess they like had a bidding war and then stopped being friends because of it, which honestly sounds the most like Donald Trump that we know. And then lastly, and most recently, he had claimed this shortly after Virginia Giuffre's death. He claimed that he stopped being friends with Jeffrey Epstein because Jeffrey poached Virginia Giuffre from the spa. She was working at the spa at Mar-a-Lago. And the issue with that is that kind of implicates that Donald Trump knew more about what Epstein was doing than what he has previously claimed, which that even made Virginia's family really question the president on this, because again, that statement of being like, oh, I stopped being friends with him because he was poaching my workers. Poaching your workers to do what exactly? Sounds like you maybe know a little bit more than you let on, which again, Virginia's family has now outwardly spoken about it and claimed that this raises several questions with the president because the statement contradicts him not knowing anything about Epstein's crimes, or leads the family to believe that Trump may have been more aware than what he had initially made it seem. And it's very frustrating because obviously this guy's story has changed so many times. I like literally cannot comprehend that there are people that still believe him. But like, it's just like the story, I can't. And if you ask me what sounds the most like Donald Trump, I would say like what the most likely reason that he would not want to be friends with someone. Because also, have you heard him and Howard Stern talking about Lindsay Lohan when she was like 17? He didn't care about that. He sat there for that and was commentating on that. It's just sick and twisted. Like, I think him saying that that was a reason that him and Epstein stopped being friends is such a joke because of what he has literally said about women. Like, do you really think he cares? No, allegedly. But also, like, yeah, come on. Them fighting over property makes so much sense. I believe that. And I don't even think that they stopped being friends over it. I think they kind of just became frenemies from that. Because again, I've been getting the vibe after going through the files and seeing the type of things that Jeffrey Epstein has, like the photo of Bill Clinton that he had in his Manhattan apartment. He was like friends with Bill Clinton, so it is weird that he had a photo like mocking him. And I feel like his vibe was just he had frenemies that also that they kept each other's secrets because they were into the same sick shit. Sorry, that's my thoughts. So something else that ended up being very frustrating about the depositions not being publicly recorded, again, like the Clintons had insisted they really wanted it to be public, is that now there are, of course, going to be contradicting statements from Republicans versus Democrats that were there, you know, feeding whatever narrative. Like the oversight chair, James Comer, who is a Republican, claimed that Clinton testified that he had no reason to believe that Trump had any involvement with Epstein's crimes or knew about them. However, Robert Garcia of California, who's the top Democrat on the committee, said repeatedly that the former president's deposition on Friday has set a precedent for Trump to testify under oath, which is kind of why Trump did not want the Clintons to do this in the first place, because now it is kind of like, why aren't we questioning the president? Robert Garcia also said that Comer's remarks were not an accurate depiction of Bill Clinton's testimony, in the sense of like, was the question asked, which we would know if we could see it, but like, was the question asked like, oh, do you have any reason to believe that Donald Trump like knew about Epstein's crimes? And there's a possibility that Clinton didn't know, but also even if he did, and he said he knew, then he would be also implicating himself, because then that would make him aware. But it highly doubtfully was said like the way that James Comer is trying to present it, which is that Clinton was defending Trump and said that he had no reason to believe that he was involved in Epstein's crimes. Like, he probably just said, girl, I don't know. And that's why it is so fucking annoying, because now, due to the nature of the secrecy behind these depositions, we're just like, we don't know. We don't know who's telling the truth here, and we're not gonna know. And I can't explain how much that irritates me. It really does. And it's exactly why the Clintons wanted it to be public in the first place. And it's exactly why the Trump administration did not want it to be public. So I don't know. Guys. I just feel like, ask yourself, who's the one that's hiding everything and redacting everything and not just being transparent with this horrible person's files of his crimes? Just ask yourself that. I don't know. Guys, we gotta talk about Jim Carrey because you guys have been tagging me in this nonstop, and honestly, I'm scared. I think we've lost him. I think we've lost Jim Carrey. So Jim Carrey appeared at this event and he looks completely different. Like, that's just like straight up not Jim Carrey, but the way that he's talking, it is so fucking weird, and I can't. Especially because we know that Jim Carrey has been incredibly vocal about the Illuminati, like kind of in a joking manner, but he has used his comedy as kind of like a safety net, I would say, like where people can decide whether or not they want to take him seriously, like he did on Jimmy Kimmel, like the whole all mocking tongue thing, all of that stuff. Like, he's definitely just saying things, but like his tone makes it seem like it's a joke. But now what we know about Hollywood and everything that's been going on, it doesn't seem like it really was a joke, and it seemed like he was trying to expose something. So was Jim Carrey taken out? Girl, this video, I don't know.
The more that I look into this last night with Jim Carrey, the more freaked out I am, because what do you mean his entire eye color changed? I'm not even talking about the structure of his face and the general look. I'm talking about his unchangeable eye color. I'm not going to call it blue, I'm not going to call it green, but what I am going to call it is definitely not dark brown like it has been his entire life. And especially after he said this last night, I'm not counting out any conspiracy theory.
Awards, and I was like, I'm dead. And I was like, I'm dead.
His eyes look as bright as mine last night, and I have very green eyes. When you search Jim Carrey's name, just straight Google him, it shows this picture, which is such a striking difference. And I want to reiterate that every single one of these pictures I'm about to show you is in front of flash photography as much as he was last night. We're gonna go from this to this. I understand, even pigments can change with age, but they don't change complete colors. Here you can see that the flash photography has turned his darker brown eyes a little bit more green, as he had green colors underneath them his whole life. Another example is here, where it has a little bit of that green that pops out, but his eyes are still a brown base. This is his Wikipedia page from 2008. I mean, it's honey brown. Now here's the thing, if you Google what color are Jim Carrey's eyes, the Google AI is going to tell you that they're hazel. A fun fact, back in the day when Jim Carrey was filming The Grinch, he couldn't wear his contacts anymore. They gave him a lot of issues because they were very big, they're very pigmented, so they're very hard to see through, and they cause a lot of irritation. And he, in fact, could not film one day because of this, and that is why there is a slip in the edits where you can see his brown eyes. But they did an in-depth interview about this with him. And in that in-depth interview, they explained how the contacts were so bad that they had to have an optometrist standing by on set all the time with a magnifying glass to make sure he wasn't getting stuff in his eyes. And that while Carrey's bare brown eyes really were, they're even admitting that he had brown eyes. They kept the optometrist on site to make sure that they could film as much as they could without having any slips in edit of his brown eyes peeking through. But they unfortunately did. It's very quick, and this is the only scene in the entire movie, but it distinctly shows how brown his eyes are, as this E! News interview article backs up. I'm telling you right now, that motherfucker right there is not real.
That picture was just a jump scare. But anyway, I agree with this. Who the fuck is that? And then I was watching an interview and I found this more interesting than Jim Carrey saying that he was dead, even though, like, obviously that is weird, but this was fucking creepy.
My favorite funny face is the one I'm wearing right now.
Thank you so much.
What? He is wearing a fucking face. What is that? And I want to reiterate, this is Jim Carrey a year ago.
I don't exist. They're all characters that I've played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. Jim Carrey was a less intentional character, right, because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character. I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern.
So that was a year ago. You're gonna tell me that he just looks like a completely fucking different person. Sorry, I don't buy it. I think this is very scary. I don't know if I necessarily believe the theory that he was like murdered or taken out or whatever, but I don't know. I don't really know what else to believe here because that's clearly not Jim Carrey. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not. Let me know your thoughts on this because it's driving me nuts, honestly. All right, the next conspiracy theory that I've seen trending on TikTok has to do with Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's a conspiracy theory on if he actually was was the one who killed Adam Walsh. So Adam Walsh is the 6-year-old son of America's Most Wanted host John Walsh, which is the entire reason that he created the show. And on July 27th of 1981, his 6-year-old son disappeared from a Sears department store in Hollywood, Florida, and 2 weeks later, his severed head was found in a drainage canal, and the rest of his body was never recovered. So people have a pretty interesting conspiracy theory that Jeffrey Dahmer was actually the murderer. Officially, a man named Otis Toole in 1983 claimed that he did it and he killed Adam, but he could never provide a body. He always got basic details wrong. His story changed repeatedly, and physical evidence did not corroborate any of his claims. And also, he was notorious for claiming that he did crimes that he didn't do. That was just like kind of his thing. So here's where Jeffrey Dahmer enters the picture. So in July of 1981, that week that Adam vanished, Jeffrey Dahmer was recently discharged from the army. He was struggling with alcoholism. He was living like transiently in Florida, and he was, again, obviously now we know, violent, compulsive, and a killer. So multiple witnesses claim to have seen a man forcibly abducting a child in the Sears parking lot that ended up being Adam Walsh. It's honestly scary how many witnesses there were, but basically they all described a tall man in military clothes, and he was seen in the toy department, and then there was another man seen forcibly putting a child into a blue van, and all of those descriptions in the police sketch actually really resemble a young Dahmer. So what we know is that Dahmer was confirmed to be in the area at this time. He also had access to a blue delivery van because of his job that he was working at the time. And years later, after Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested, several of the original eyewitnesses from the day that Adam Walsh vanished from the Sears called into the police and said that is the guy who took that kid from the Sears. And I feel like that's not talked about enough. Jeffrey Dahmer's youngest confirmed victim was 14 years old. He was asked by Detective Neil Pirtle several times, investigated by him, asking if he did this, and Jeffrey Dahmer kept claiming that he did not do this, but then he left with a very chilling and specific comment. He said anyone who killed Adam Walsh could not live in any prison, because obviously we know that people who hurt children that young, of course, not that Jeffrey Dahmer's other victims weren't children, but obviously in prison, these abusers to children, like 6-year-olds, do not fucking last in prison. They would die. So the way that he was saying it was kind of like, I can't admit to this because then they're gonna kill me, which I guess they did anyway. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's an interesting conspiracy theory overall, and I wish we would maybe find out the answer to this one day, but it is such an old case, obviously, and it's so sad and horrifying, but I want to hear what you guys think because I found that to be very interesting. All right, the last 2 TikToks have to do with the health industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the dentistry industry, which sounds like a lot, but honestly, they're all sketchy. So the first one has to do with root canals.
What's a conspiracy theory you 100% know is true?
Root canals. There's this YouTube video, which before was a documentary on Netflix before it got pulled after 2 weeks, known as The Root Cause. The Root Cause discusses the big psyop by dental industry and by big pharma to fuck people's health up through root canals. You can't even watch it in the United States. You have to turn on a VPN because it's banned by the American Dental Association, which is in bed with big pharma. And I can say that because dentists can't say it because they'll lose their license, but I can say it because I don't have a license. I had a root canal recently removed, and once they did the DNA biopsy on the tooth, they found 20 different types of parasites growing and living inside of my jaw. So stay away from fluoride, and now stay away from root canals.
I don't fucking like that. I don't like that. I've always said I don't trust dentists because one time I went to a dentist and they told me I had 10 cavities, which was fucking bananas because I had like not had a cavity since like the 1st grade. And so I went to a different dentist and literally they were like, I don't even know what the hell that person was talking about. Like everything's fine. I got like 2 other opinions after that. So yeah, I do think there are some scammers out there. Do I think they're like implanting like cancer or terrible diseases with root canals? I fucking hope not, but I wouldn't put it past them, honestly. I wouldn't. And the last series kind of on a similar wavelength that talks about the farming industry and how it's connected to the pharmaceutical industry and literally everything else.
My down the rabbit hole conspiracy theory is that seed companies, chemical companies, the government, they're all in cahoots to make sure and prevent us from being able to move into small communities. And I'm not talking homesteaders. I am not talking gardeners, hobby gardeners. I am talking like small communities that farm food on like 25 to 30 acres, so like a larger scale. impossible. I'm from a farming community and I've done a lot of research on this. This is going to be a lot, but I need you to follow me. So when someone farms on a larger scale, and even a smaller scale, 25 to 35 acres is considered a smaller scale. But when someone farms on that scale, they purchase their seeds from a seed company, and these seeds come genetically modified and treated to be disease resistant. Now, with that genetic modification also comes into play that any seed produced by the fruit that you produced from that original seed, if you plant it, should not produce a fruit. Like, you'll have pretty leaves, but you won't have any actual edible food. But let's just say that, for example, you buy a watermelon from a farmer. That farmer has signed a waiver that states he will not attempt to replant any of those seeds that come from that seeded watermelon that grew from the original seed that he purchased from the seed company, and also says that he will not let you purchase seeds from him from the fruit that was produced from that original seed to then plant and possibly even grow edible fruit. These are legal binding documents, like punishable under penalty of law. So the seeds are genetically modified to grow bigger, grow better, more robust, but they're also genetically modified to not produce fruit from like the mother plant. Even though these seeds are considered disease resistant, you're still going to deal with disease, powdery mildew. When it comes to sweet corn, you're going to have a worm infestation. So you're still going to need to purchase agricultural chemicals in order to spray to treat this crop, these crops. And that's sweet corn, that's field corn, that's anything. But in order to purchase that chemical, you're going to need a USDA license from the government. So you have to get this license from the government. They're going to know that you're growing food because you need this USDA license in order to purchase these chemicals to treat your genetically modified and disease-resistant seeds that aren't actually disease-resistant. Kelsey, you may say, aren't these chemicals bad for you? Yeah, they are. They are really, really bad. And they don't even tell you how bad. I know 2 farmers here locally. One has already passed away. The other declining rapidly from something called PSP. They have linked this to farm chemicals. Okay? It's awful. It's basically a deterioration of the physical body while the mind stays intact. You can't walk. You can't swallow. By the time the food from that seed and those chemicals sprayed on it makes its way to you, it's going to be watered down. But who knows what it's causing? Is it making you sick? I don't know. But do you know who one of the largest seed producers, one of the biggest seed companies is? Bayer. Yeah, that Bayer. Yeah. They do seeds, farming chemicals, pharmaceuticals. Are you following me? Keep following me. Now, Bayer is its own entity. It's owned by shareholders. Do you know the biggest shareholder in Bayer? BlackRock. BlackRock controls your seed. It controls the agricultural chemicals and your pharmaceuticals. Okay? You may say, Bayer isn't the only seed company. There are others. Well, BlackRock is also a shareholder in those as well. The 4 largest, Corteva, Syngenta, BASF. Why are we seeing the cycle? Food, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, food, chemicals, pharmaceuticals. Because I hate to tell you this, but the machine that you are a part of, that we are a part of, I, me, you, us, couldn't possibly allow you to become self-sufficient in growing your own food. They stopped that a long time ago, okay? Because you're going to have to purchase your seeds from them. You're going to have to purchase your chemical from them. And then when you get sick, you're going to have to purchase your medication from them as well. Why would they allow us to go into smaller communities and take care of ourselves and depend on each other when we could just depend on them for everything? Basically what I'm saying is if anybody has a seed line from the 1850s, your grandpa's been saving tomato seeds, your great grandpa, he'd been saving them for you, should probably start working on that. But do with this information what you will. Like I said, it's just a conspiracy theory. They wouldn't do that, right?
So that's also bananas, and I don't like it, and I really did not like a comment on it. The first comment said, we aren't allowed to feed wildlife at parks because the animals will become too reliant on people to feed them and forget how to get food themselves. By the way, this comment is not about animals. I don't like that. I don't fucking like that. And I also don't like how BlackRock owns everything. How do they have a share in literally everything? I really, really don't like that. And I wanted to find a video that just perfectly explained in a nice little wrapped up package exactly what BlackRock is.
You may have heard about a company called BlackRock. You may have even read people commenting about it on my post. I want to explain what BlackRock is and why it's one of the most dangerous companies to our entire world economy. BlackRock is worth $10 trillion and they own 10% of all companies listed worldwide. In fact, they're worth more than any country when it comes to GDP, except for China and the United States. They began a meteoric rise in 2008 during the recession when the United States government leaned into them for support in offloading dangerous assets from banks that had failed. During this time, they developed a supercomputer called Aladdin, which now oversees $20 trillion in assets, and they also started offering ETFs, which are investments in an entire industry rather than just one company. And this reality should frighten anyone. They own all the media companies, airlines, insurance companies, banks, pharmaceutical companies, large social media companies, and tech like Apple and Microsoft, as well as Nvidia. Because they own major stakes in these companies have to consult BlackRock before they make any major decisions. The truth is, Larry Fink, the founder of BlackRock, is more powerful than any president in the world. In fact, most leaders come to him for advice and support. BlackRock owns your personal and banking information. They own the banks, they own your mortgage, and they can influence governments and politics around the world. Keeping in mind they have all your personal information and preferences, they were invited for the first time into China's mutual fund market. Now they have stakes in Chinese companies, including some companies that are banned by the United States for human rights violations. BlackRock is a company you may never have heard of, and they like it that way. BlackRock thrives on wars. They inflate our currency, and they ensure that there's no longer free market capitalism. Instead, socialism for the rich.
So, I don't like that. BlackRock, obviously it's sketchy that they have shares in so many different, like literally every avenue of life. The pharmaceutical industry, the fucking farming industry. Like, do they just not want us to be able to do things on our own because they want to feed us things that are terrible for us and are killing us? I don't know. Maybe that's why cancer rates have just like skyrocketed. Who the hell knows? I don't like it, and I'm just gonna pretend like it doesn't exist, because what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these TikToks. So that is it. Make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.